Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, JT Funk. He is a professional wrestler, entertainer, and entrepreneur. JT, welcome to the pod.
Wow, I'm so excited for this, man. Like, I was super stoked the entire time. I was like, I cannot wait. So thank you.
I love your energy. I'm in everything about you, the charisma, the persona. But today we got to get serious just for a little bit. I want to talk to you about finances. And I mean, it's my first time speaking to a professional wrestler. How cool is that? You guys in the entertainment industry, sports. Okay, I guess Vince McMahon is gone, so we can talk about wrestling again, not call it sports entertainment, right? So, but you guys but people see the amounts of money that athletes get paid, and I'm like, dude, you're rich and you're set for life. But what people don't realize is the injuries and like the risks that you guys take are very real. And that money has to sort of last a long time. Talk to me about that. Like, what is that like?
To be completely honest, wrestling is at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of pay, right? You got NFL, you got NBA, you got MLB, all these different facets of sports. They get paid millions of dollars.
Millions,
Wrestlers don't get nearly paid as much as those other sports. So that's number one. Number two, it's a lot of sacrifice that goes involved with wrestling. I can remember the first time I got paid, man. It was somewhere between $15 to $20. My first paid. It wasn't even enough to fill up my gas tank.
Wow.
But wrestling is a thing of passion. You can't get into wrestling thinking you're going to make $1 million by tomorrow. It's a lot of sacrifice, and wrestling is more of passion. It's more of a passion thing. So people get into wrestling because they followed it since they were a kid, and then they love it, want to learn more about it. But it's definitely, just like anything else in life, it's pros and cons to everything. But yes, the injuries are definitely a thing, CTE with the brain and stuff like that. It's a tough gene, but
So how many bumps do you like? A bump is, for those that are not aware, it's when you hit the mat, right? Flat back. How many bumps would you say that the average sort of wrestler takes in a year?
Well, it's okay. So a bump, right, is equivalent to a car crash. That's what they equate to bumping on the ring. You know what I mean? It's a car crash. So you're not only are you forcefully throwing yourself to the mat, but you're causing harm to your body, which is essentially wear and tear over time.
Yes.
But that's why I think it's important for wrestlers to do like physical therapy, body therapy, things that help your body heal, so that way you don't go 10, 15 years with back problems. And I do body therapy as well. So that's what helps me. But I can't really answer that, but I guess it varies on every wrestler, because you have some wrestlers who maybe wrestle 3-4 times a week. You may have some wrestlers just wrestle maybe twice a week. It just varies. But if I were to throw a random number out there, I would say at least probably somewhere between 400 and 500 bumps a year.
So that's 400 car crashes a year, right? I mean, and my point being that the collision can sort of be equated to what the guys in the NFL go through, because there's a lot of guys that go try out for NFL, maybe don't make it, and then they go and do wrestle. I'm guessing sort of this changeover from football to wrestling is an easier one to make.
I think a lot of the fundamentals with like footwork, eye coordination, things like that you learn in football and amateur wrestling. Those things are natural, right? And everything else they can teach you. They can teach you the wrestling moves. They can teach you, obviously the main thing will be attitude, personality, and willing to learn, right? That's
Yes.
just nobody can teach you that type of stuff. That just has to be innate.
Yeah.
But the basic fundamentals, footwork and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff will probably be easy for like a football player or say a boxer or a basketball player or a collegiate wrestler, because a lot
Yes.
of those things are like footwork and stuff like that. So yeah.
So people coming into the NFL, you always hear there are people like helping them with their finances, the backroom staff and such as such. On the road in the indies, specifically in the wrestling, who helps like the young guys with their finances, or are you pretty much left to your own devices?
Oh yeah, definitely on the indies. It's definitely every man for himself.
Wow.
Unless you come across a veteran, who knows and who's willing to help you, then yeah. But other than that, no, it's every man for himself. You kind of got to learn on your own. It's kind of like college in a way, whereas you're like learning on your own. Obviously you can ask people, but it's really like on your own. It was very difficult for me at first because it was a lot of things I didn't understand and I didn't know really where to look towards to get this information, whereas now I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum, whereas I tell a lot of the younger guys like, hey, listen, is there anything I can do to help you? Reach out. But yeah, absolutely not. It's just
It's
kind of like
just scary for me that there's no structure still to this day in place to help, because so many people are not even aware. It's like you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, and I thought by now we would have had some sort of structure in place to help guys. That's
well,
funny.
I think on the independent level, definitely not. But I believe WWE do have a lot of things in place now. They have
Yes.
a lot of trainers now. They have a lot of different stuff that they offer, considering that they're trying to learn from the past, right? So I
Yes.
think when the contract with WWE, I think is a lot more help now. But on the indies, no, because you're not signed to an individual company, so you're
Yes.
wrestling kind of where you want. So it's kind of like every man for himself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but not everyone is fortunate enough, I guess, to make it to the WWE. That's if you look at the percentage of wrestlers in the WWE versus the Indies. I mean, there are more athletes in the Indies than there are in the WWE.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And honestly, I don't really have an answer to that.
Yeah,
I just wish things were different. But it's just kind of like it's the mentality of self. People only really care about themselves. They don't really care about helping people. They really only care about their pockets,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about sort of life on the road, because you travel a lot, from town to town, and now, I mean, we all know gas prices, like accommodation, like everything's gone up. How is like the current economy affected like your travels on the indie scenes and some of your peers?
Uh, so I travel mostly by myself, but I'm at a point now that I won't even leave my house after a certain amount.
Mm,
So I don't really have an issue with working shows now. But I can tell you when I first broke into the business, it was very difficult. Sometimes I would drive like 3-4 hours, man, 5 hours, and won't even have enough gas to get back home. But it was passion. I just knew it was going to get better at some point if I applied myself and I worked hard. I knew it was going to get better at some point, but just at that time, it just seemed like it wasn't. And I couldn't really tell my family because they were like, they didn't understand. Like, why are you driving that far for this amount of money? You know what I mean? But they don't
yeah.
understand. But at first it was very difficult, but now with gas prices being high, um, I don't even really wrestle locally that much. I wrestle far, far away, and normally, my flights are covered and stuff like that. So I don't really have that issue anymore. But like I said, I won't mind driving to an event if I have to, because I love traveling. It's no
Yes.
big deal. But I don't really have that issue right now, and I'm very grateful, and I worked very hard to get where I'm at. But
So there's a
Yeah,
great disparity, just like if I'm understanding correctly, between sort of the old guard and people who've paid their dues and like the young guys coming in. There's a big gap there about like you've got these guys, oh, I have to figure it out for themselves. And then you've got sort of the veterans like yourself, who sort of, hey, I've paid my dues. I can sort of command this. I only do this for that. But the young people, do they really? I mean, they've got no pool, right?
yes, yes. And it's not even so much no pull. It's just the fact that they're relatively new. And you can tell by the way that they work, by the way that they carry themselves, that they're relatively new. It's like
The green, yeah.
yeah. The less they talk, the less they it's almost like you can tell, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like if I'm backstage putting a match together with a guy that's been in the business longer than me, and we
Mm-hmm.
have he can tell, even though I haven't been around long as him, I still know what I'm talking about. And it's kind of
Yes.
like, okay, all right, I respect that. Whereas you have a guy who's relatively new, you can automatically tell from the way he's structuring the match and how he's talking to you that he don't really know much what he's talking about. And that's okay too, because it's a learning progress, right?
I caught an IG live, I think it was last week, about that you were on about mental health. And
Mhm.
man, that struck me so hard because mental health is something, especially I'm very involved in the financial markets and stuff. It's like if you take emotional decisions with your money,
Uh-huh.
it's not a good idea, right? So
Mhm.
I'm I'm seeing the same thing, even like in emerging countries. This whole mental health issue it's just getting worse and worse. And one of the things that you said, it's not about raising awareness anymore. Like we're past that. Like we need to sort of we've raised the awareness. Now it's like, how do we get people to take action? And that sort of was what I wanted you to try and break down for the listeners today. It's like not raising awareness about mental health, which we should absolutely do. How do we drive people to action?
Yeah. So that was the guy, my guy Nick, that actually said that. He actually
Yes.
said that. I think it's a very difficult thing because we have to understand, right? With men, it's one of those touchy subjects where, as men, we're not supposed to cry, we're not supposed to express our feelings. So, I think it just has to start with getting men to one accept that they have an issue or they have a mental issue, whereas not mental like crazy, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because most men think that like I'm not crazy, I'm okay. No,
Yeah.
you're silence. So number one, we have to identify that there is a problem, right? If we get men to understand that we do have a mental issue or a mental problem, that's number one. And then two, we have to get them to be comfortable. We mentioned on the podcast that a lot of men have issues with women, and women weaponize it and they use it against them, and that closed them off, which they probably already closed off. And now that the fact that a woman is using that against them, it forces them to kind of go back to that closed shell again. So I think it just has to be one, man has to identify that there is a problem, and two, we have to get them to feel a lot more comfortable and not feel judged, because I think a lot of people use that against them, even family members, parents, friends. It just has we can't not utilize that and weaponize men. I think those two things are very important.
I also found that a lot of men they struggle or they have a problem or they have difficulty. That's the word that I was looking for. They have difficulty finding their voice, right? Like, who am I? Like, and then when you find out who you are, it's like they're confident where they're not on a soapbox, but when they climb onto that soapbox they just lose all confidence in themselves and what it is that they want to say, that they don't even go out there and say it. And I think it's so important that we help men also find that voice that is inside them, because it's like you said, it's getting suppressed a lot these days.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I agree with you 100% with that. Some men just don't know where to go. They don't know, they don't know where to start with that. It's just one thing they like, okay, well, I'm a man, I can deal with it, I can handle it, I'm all right, and they're suffering in silence. So it's like, it's just a very difficult task, but I think it can be done. We just
I-
have to get them comfortable.
Is there any sort of groups that you are part of that for men that if they want to reach out, they can sort of join?
No, not me personally. Because as I mentioned on the podcast,
Yeah.
I've attempted to reach out to men, but it was very difficult to me. So that's why I was like, okay, my niche isn't dealing with grown adult men. My niche is
Yes.
children because
Oh, there you
they're
go.
more. Yeah, because they're more informative. I say
Yes.
between 5 and 10 years old, those are the most informative years in a child's life,
Mm.
and you can make an impact. Whereas I felt as though dealing with older men who already set in their ways is hard for me to come and change their mind. So that's why I kind of like stepped away from that avenue. I try, but
I
so
love it.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
I love it because the chance to form young minds when they are still impressionable is a great one, and it's a very noble cause that you're doing.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying I give up completely, right? But I just feel
Yeah.
so that isn't my niche, right? That isn't my niche.
Yeah.
But I do have male friends who dealing with mental health, and I'm talking to them, and I'm there for them. I'm supportive, and we support one another, and that matters. But as far as like me attempting to go into that field, that's just
Yes.
not my strong suit.
But also you need to know what is my strength, and you need to play to your strength. And I think that's a good sort of that's good wisdom to part as well, because it's like sometimes everyone's, oh, I want to help everyone, but
Yep,
maybe you don't have the tools to help everyone. So you find out sort of, hey, what am I good at? And then you double down on that. It's great.
you hit it right in the nose with that one. That was perfectly well said.
My man, before I let you leave, tell the listeners, where can they find you? What are you up? Any special dates coming up? Anything that you think people will find interesting?
Well, I just got finished filming, so I haven't wrestled since April. And I've been filming since then, from May all the way to August I've been filming.
Ooh,
So I
what are we
haven't
filming? What are we filming?
so the it was the sequel of the movie Kingmaker. The movie is based in Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States. This is the second film, the sequel.
Okay.
We did the first, which was Kingmaker 1. We're actually going to be uploading it on YouTube soon. So soon as I get that information and that link, I'll send it to you, and you can post it or do whatever.
Absolutely.
And the second one, we're trying to get on Netflix or any streaming platform so we can make money, right? um, yeah. So that's that.
But it's funny, right? Because Andrew Schultz pulled his Netflix special because they tried to censor him. Well, apparently it was Netflix, and he sort of released it through his network, which was his website. And it basically, if you think about it, everything was crowdsourced or crowdfunded. So I think there are trends that are shifting there as well. Everyone maybe not looking at Netflix anymore, but trying to do it themselves.
Yeah. It's a very difficult and tough market if you really don't, one, have the finances, or two,
Yes.
you don't have the buzz surrounding it. But it's not impossible.
Yes.
So yeah, so that and then I'm going to resume taking wrestling bookings again. So hopefully I'll be out on the road soon. But yeah, so that, and then my social media is at the JT Funk. My Instagram is the JT Funk. My Twitter is at the JT Funk. My Facebook, JT Funk. I try to keep everything all the same. And yeah, definitely. If you guys that's watching and listening, I'm always here to talk to anyone. I'm here to help motivate. Like I mentioned earlier, my strong suit is the youth. I like working loosely with the youth because they're very impressionable. But yeah, I'm all about giving back. I'm actually in the process of throwing my first wrestling show in my neighborhood where I grew up at. So I'm kind of leaning over towards the entrepreneur kind of like promoter, because I feel I've accomplished a lot thus far, and I have a lot more to give. It's when it's like when you're a content creator and you have enough energy and enough means to do things yourself, and you can create the environment you want, right? So I want to create an environment where I can help out the youth, and even help out up and coming wrestlers. You know what I mean?
I love it because it's like you've paid your dues and now you're plowing it back into the community. I love it.
Yes, absolutely.
Dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen, JT Funk. To our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.